السلام عليكم. Welcome back to another episode of Quran Weekly, where we read the Quran in Arabic but discuss it in English. My name is Ahmed, and on the call with me I have Captain Ahmad. Say hello, Captain.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be with you guys.
And we are continuing our journey through the holy month of Ramadan, but today's episode is the weekly episode where we take a section of the Quran and cover it instead of doing one of the short verses. So the section that we were getting into today is from chapter 8. It's the first section of chapter 8, Surah Al-Anfal. But before we begin, we must always explain that we are not scholars of the Arabic language, nor are we scholars of Quranic study. We are merely undergoing a journey to learn about the Quran and share our learning with you. And if you see something that you have a different perspective on or a different opinion, please feel free to share it. We can also learn from you as much as you can learn from us. And before we begin, we must always say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, which means I seek refuge from God, from the devil, and in the name of God, who's most merciful and whose mercy is most encompassing. Over to you, Captain Ahmad. Do you want to maybe start with what does Al-Anfal mean? Surah Al-Anfal.
اوكي، السورة هذه الأنفال، كلمة أنفال هي جمع نافلة.
It's a plural
which
of nafila, which means
نافلة هي العمل الخير المطلوب منك تعمله أنت بتعمله بزيادة. مثلا
it's a good deed
الله
that you do that's extra. It's not necessarily asked of you, but it's something that you do good on top of what has been asked.
مثال على ذلك أنه الله سبحانه وتعالى فرض علينا 5 صلوات.
An example of
لكن
that
في ناس
An example of that is that God has commanded us to pray 5 times a day, but there are some people
بالليل بيقوموا بتهجدوا لله،
at night they come up
يصلوا زيادة.
and they pray an extra one. Oh, I've done that before.
اوكي، هاي اسمها النافلة اللي هي عمل الخير الزيادة عن ما هو مطلوب منك.
So that's what nafila means, which is the plural of it is anfal. It's doing the good that is above and beyond what is asked of you. You are doing something extra. You're doing something good that's above and beyond.
في آية في القرآن الكريم بتقول: ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا. إذا التهجد بالليل هو أنفال.
So long, I think to kind of explain it succinctly is that getting up in the middle of the night to pray, getting up to kind of give to prayer,
volunteer for extra
gives you an extra reward and secures you some more goodness in the eyes of the God. So it's that's what this chapter is referring to.
تمام. هلا احنا شرحنا كلمة الأنفال، حكينا واحد من المعاني. That was one of the meanings.
Okay.
السورة هاي كلها، سورة الأنفال كلها بكاملها، وراح تيجي بعديها سورة اسمها براءة. هاي السورتين بيحكوا عن الحروب وعن المعاهدات وعن السلم وعن الأسرى وعن أمور زي هيك.
One second. Is this verse and this chapter and the next chapter talking about the wars? Is that what you were saying?
Wars, truce, peace agreements, things you gain and المغانم، الغنيمة اللي بتاخذوها من عدوكم.
The
كل شيء علاقة بالحرب.
The not the provisions, the prizes of war, like what you capture. Okay, so this is about what you gain, and in terms of conquest and combatant. Okay.
تمام. So the first verse says: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول.
Okay, so the spoils of war. Sorry, continue. Finish the verse.
يسألونك عن الأنفال قل الأنفال لله والرسول فاتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله إن كنتم مؤمنين.
Okay. So here it's the second description of Anfal is the spoils of war, not the things that you do above and beyond and extra, but here they're talking about what about the spoils of war.
تمام. بتلاحظ أنت في القرآن الكريم في أسلوب بتكرر كثير. يسألونك عن قل، يسألونك عن الساعة قل إنما علمها عند ربي، يسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو.
There's a repeated pattern that we see in the Quran where they ask you about, say the spoils of war. So asking about the spoils of war, say the spoils of war are for God and the Messenger, for example.
تمام. يسألونك عن الأنفاق قل أنفال الرسول فاتقوا الله واتقوا الله وأصلحوا ذات بينكم وأطيعوا الله ورسوله. Here we have to stop. Be obedient to God and His messenger. He didn't say be obedient to God and His prophet. Why?
I don't know. That's very interesting.
Yeah. الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم هو الذي ينقل الرسالة من الله إلى المؤمنين إلى الناس.
The Rasul is who conveys a message from God to the believers, to the people.
So he's a messenger. Whatever the Prophet Muhammad as a messenger tell you God told us, the Muslims, the believers, to do, you must obey, you must follow. This is a compulsory response from you guys.
Okay. Okay. A few things that I'd like to understand. First of all, they ask you about the spoils of war. What does قُلْ الْأَنْفَالِ لِلَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ mean? The spoils of war are for God and for the messenger? What is...
When Prophet Muhammad goes to war and he gains material things, his followers, his Sahaba, his soldiers, they had a fight amongst each other. How do they divide the المغانم الأشياء اللي غنموها بالمعركة?
Yeah.
So that God says, listen guys, it's not your decision. It's the decision of God and Prophet Muhammad. Rasul, your messenger Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, peace be upon him.
So here it's not saying that the spoils of war belong to God and the messenger, but they belong to the God and the messenger in order to... They distribute fairly.
Distribution is dictated by God, not by you.
And by the messenger, apparently.
And by the messenger. Now, if he said, ونبيه النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام له طبيعتين. سيدنا محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام له طبيعتين.
If it said he had the prophet has two natures.
Muhammad has two tasks. واحد منهم إنه messenger. Another one is prophet.
One is as a messenger, one is as a prophet.
As a messenger, he should be followed blindly. Whatever he says, as a messenger, you follow him to the letter. But when it comes to as a Nabi, he committed some mistakes.
So as a prophet, he's committed mistakes, but as a messenger, he hasn't committed mistakes?
He cannot make a mistake. He has no choice. He cannot make a mistake.
Is this is there a reference in the Quran that's letting you say this?
لأنه القرآن الكريم نفسه هو الرسالة. هو the message.
Oh, okay.
ومحمد هو المسsenger.
I understand what you mean. So you're thinking that in the duty of a messenger, his duty was to reveal the Quran, and the Quran has no mistakes, therefore he did not make a mistake as a messenger. Though one could argue that the responsibilities of the messenger is more than just revealing the Quran, for example. It could be other duties. And here, if anything, this specific verse is saying that the spoils of war are for God and his messenger. This is another duty for the messenger, that he must split the spoils of war amongst his people.
Absolutely, because the guy who is splitting it is not doing it out of his own notion or desire.
Sure.
He's doing it as God dictated him to do it.
But the only thing I'm challenging is that you're saying that his duty as a messenger was perfect because the Quran is perfect. I don't think is accurate. His duty in conveying the message of the Quran was perfect, but his other messenger duties might not have been perfect, for example.
As a messenger, he fought a war against non-believers. He has the right to divide the gains they got from the
sure, I agree.
Badr.
But all I was challenging was the perfection. Just because the Quran is perfect doesn't mean the messenger was perfect, you know?
It necessarily means that the messenger is perfect.
I don't see a Quranic reference to say that the messenger was perfect, but I do see Quranic references that the messenger was trusted and the messenger should be leading and should be followed and should be obeyed. But I don't see the Quranic reference that says that the messenger, the Prophet Muhammad, was perfect.
There are many verses that tells us clearly, loud and clear, that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could not make a mistake relaying or conveying the message of God, which is the Quran.
I know,
but shall I give you examples?
I know. Listen, I'm agreeing with you that in his duty of conveying the Quran, that was perfect. But he might have had messenger duties to convey other things that are not the Quran, and in those, perfection is not guaranteed. The Quranic recitation and sharing, I agree with you, perfect. Outside of the Quranic duties is where I'm clarifying that I don't see evidence to suggest that it is perfect. Can you give me an example of from the Quran talking about how the Rasul was perfect outside of the recitation of the Quran, other than his
No,
duties?
no. The case you're talking about is things Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said or did, not as a messenger, but as a prophet. And this
Um,
is where he went wrong.
I I don't know. For me, prophet and messenger are labels that you talk about a person or an individual based off of the duties and abilities. But I feel like him being a messenger, and if anything, we're seeing this in this specific verse. Here, it's letting us know that the duties of the messenger is to split the spoils of war. That is a duty outside of reciting the Quran and outside of giving the message. So and it's possible that he could have done the sharing of the anfal, the sharing of the spoils of war perfectly, but I don't see evidence to suggest that. I just see evidence that God trusts the messenger and is asking all of the believers to trust the messenger as well. I don't see a sign of perfection in this duty, for example.
In this surah, the duty of Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the messenger of God, and he was the commander-in-chief of the Islam army, Muslim army.
Agreed.
And that they have to follow him blindfolded, whatever he says.
They have to
Now the
follow
war
him.
is over.
Yeah.
The war is over, and they gained some things, and it's up to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to decide which way he's going to divide this.
Yeah.
As a Nabi, as a prophet, he made mistakes and God atabu.
Yeah, so but again, you're saying that when the prophet made mistakes, then he was doing it as a prophet, which for me, he was both the prophet and the messenger. So even when he made the mistake, he was the messenger when he made that mistake. The title still applied to him.
No. Let's get it clear. Sorry to interrupt you. Let's get it clear. Messenger specifically talks about revealing, transferring the word of God from God to the believers and Muslims.
Not just that.
That's the only task
This verse
for Rasul Muhammad. Now this verse, I'm coming to this verse. Now this verse is talking about what they gained from the war. And Prophet Muhammad, as a leader and commander-in-chief, he has the right, as a Rasul and a commander-in-chief of the Muslims, he has the right to divide it the way he was told to do it. أطيعوا الله ورسوله.
Okay, but the duty of the messenger in this verse is the spoils of war. So it's more than just the message. I understand your explanation is that when he was acting as a messenger and reciting the Quran, he did it perfectly. But for me, he is both the Rasul and the Prophet. And we have other verses in the Quran that talk about when he overlooked the blind man, for example. So there are examples of him not doing it. But anyway, I think we're
as a prophet.
I
did
don't
it as a prophet, not as a messenger.
I don't see this distinction that you do, but for me, he was both the messenger and the prophet in both of those cases. And in the end of the day, he was a man. And men are capable of making mistakes because we're human, right? This is why we need the Quran. This is why we need the education and the teaching, because we are mortal. The only being that is perfect is God.
Maybe it will be clear to you later on as we continue reading the Quran, things will become clearer. Sure. If you're not happy about this understanding, just wait. It'll fall in place sooner or later.
Inshallah. So what is saying? فَأَتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. So fear God and set right that is between you. So be fair and be mindful of God and settle your affairs, and obey God and His Messenger if you are believers. إن كنتم مؤمنين.
إن كنتم مؤمنين. طيب شو مؤمن؟ شو معنى مؤمن؟
What does it
الآية اللي بعديها بتفسر.
Okay, the next verse explains what believers are.
إنما المؤمنون الذين إذا ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم وإذا تليت عليهم آياته زادتهم إيمانا وعلى ربهم يتوكلون. The believers are those who, if God is mentioned, their hearts tremble from fear. وإذا تليت عليهم آياته, when His verses are recited for them, It makes them, it increases their faith. It makes them believe even more. وعلى ربهم يتوكلون, and they're completely dependent on their God.
Completely put their trust in God. So these are the true believers whose hearts tremble at the remembrance of Allah, of God, and whose faith increases when they hear His revelations recited to them, and who put their trust completely in God. Clear.
Next one even adds another
Layer.
element of iman, layer. الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Those who are not here, يقيمون الصلاة doesn't mean they pray. This is automatically understood. But إقامة الصلاة is to follow the religion outside the worship, outside prayer, zakah, and hajj, and umrah, and all that. الصلاة.
Are you sure that it doesn't mean just pray? يقيمون الصلاة, because this is referenced in the Quran multiple times. يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة. Usually, they perform prayer and they give alms tax.
هاي عبادات, هاي worships, هاي worships. إقامة الصلاة غير عن أدائها. أداء الصلاة إنك تتوضأ وتوقف وتصلي وتركع وتسجد وتقرأ قرآن وتسلم. هاي أداء الصلاة.
So
performing prayer.
Captain Ahmad is saying there's a difference between the word يقيمون, إقامة الصلاة, and أداء الصلاة, which is another word. أداء الصلاة is the performance of prayer, to do the thing, to wash your hands, to bend. Whereas he believes that يقيمون الصلاة, establishing prayer, is more metaphorical and references doing right in religion, not necessarily in prayer. Though,
and everything, doing right in everything. For instance, you have prayed like 5 times a day, and then you had a chance to gain usury, for instance, usury. You haven't ما قمتش الصلاة هيك أنت.
So you're saying
تبعد عن الكذب, تبعد عن السرقة, تبعد عن النفاق, تبعد عن الجرائم, تبعد عن الأشياء اللي الله منعك عنها.
You're saying that if you pray 5 times a day but then commit crimes, then you're not praying 5 times a day, which
then you are not إقامة. ما أنت ما قمتش الصلاة, أنت أديت الصلاة هيك.
I'm finding it hard to digest. For me,
okay.
For me, problem. It means, like, the way that if I take it just as I read it, it means perform. It means doing prayer and like consistently praying, and that's the way that I understand it. But I get that you have a different perspective, and that's fine.
Okay. Next.
Let's finish it. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and from out of what we have provided for them, they spend.
So they spend on their family, and they give zakah and charity.
Yeah.
Because if you take everything God gives you, like let's say money, God gives you so much money, you keep it to yourself. You don't spend on your wife and children or poor people around you, or zakah, or any good deeds, or helping other needy and poor. Then أنت لم تنفق. You're not spending money. So you as a believer, you have to spend on your family and your neighbors, and people who are in need, who are poor, doing charity, all these things.
And I find the opposite of spending is saving. So there are those who like collect wealth, and they're like, no, I have to collect wealth. I have to keep it. It's thinking that their wealth is going to protect them, and they're not giving from it. And this is the opposite of what God is saying. God is saying, spend, give, take back, like use your wealth, use what we have provided for them. رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. So it's a reminder that everything that we have gained is what God has given us, not necessarily, oh, I'm so smart and I worked hard and I collected money, yay. No, you have to.
My money, I'm free to do whatever I want with it. No.
Yeah. Here it's saying spend what has been provided for you, because that's what's fair. Okay. Next. Yeah.
أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا لهم درجات عند ربهم ومغفرة ورزق كريم. Those are the true believers. They have escalated their value as believers in the eyes of their God, and they have earned a forgiveness from God and a good رزق الكريم.
Provision that is a noble provision, an honorable provision. Honorable provision. Yeah.
Question?
No, these are the true believers. They have elevated ranks, and they've received forgiveness and a noble provision from God.
Next.
Yeah.
كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق وإن فريقا من المؤمنين لكارهون. Before we go into explaining it in Arabic, I have mentioned that it's all about war. However, this surah in particular is talking about Ghazwat Badr, which is the first military conflict between Prophet Muhammad and unbelievers in Arabian Peninsula and in Mecca.
Okay.
مناسبة الآية مش reason
The cause for
the occasion of this is Ghazwat Badr.
The occasion of this verse is specifically tied to the conflict of what we call conflict of Badr, which is the first conquest, the first war that the believers had to fight against the non-believers in the Arabian Peninsula.
Now he says كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق. كما الكاف التشبيه زي ما الله طلعك من بيتك بالحق. Like God has taken you out of your home with the truth.
Yeah.
وإن فريقا من لكارهون is the way God has taken you out of your home. هو هاجر النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم من مكة إلى المدينة. وهي معناها الله أخرجه من بيته بالحق.
So when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, he has left his house. But what does in haq mean? What does in truth mean?
يعني he didn't commit a crime to deserve punishment and being انطرد أو أبعد.
So you're saying that it's done in truth because he didn't commit a crime, or it's not in shame. It's like he left because
all what he did is call people to follow God. That's it. Yeah. He didn't commit a crime.
But here it says, as your Lord has brought you forth from your home in truth, and then it also ties, and indeed a party of the believers, they certainly disliked it. They were totally against going from Mecca to Medina.
Similar to that is that when you took what you gained from the non-believers, you disagreed about it. So God took it away from you. And he made it in a division as dictated by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the messenger of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam.
Okay, are you explaining the next verse?
كما أخرجك ربك من بيتك بالحق. I'm explaining this verse.
Oh, okay. So how did you get that this way is why the Prophet is...
That's what the tafsir says. That's what the tafsir says. It's not from me. It's not my understanding.
So what do they say? Sorry, I struggle to understand it.
They say, like when God had took you away from your home by right, and a group of the believers were hating it. The same thing has happened when you gained when you won Ghazwat Badr, and you some of the believers argued about the way it should be distributed. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was up to Messenger Muhammad alayhi to divide them, and you have disagreed on the way you want to divide the Maghanim.
Okay. I feel like we're explaining a lot of things that aren't in the verse in front of us. I don't understand how the tafsir got there. Maybe it'll make more sense in the next couple of verses.
Maybe we'll try.
Yeah.
يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين كأنما يساقون إلى الموت وهم ينظرون. They are arguing you with the truth, with what Muhammad, peace be upon him, is telling them.
Yeah.
After they realized that it is the truth, and they felt so bad, like they were being dragged to death while they are looking at it. That's how badly they felt about the division of Anfal.
So they disputed about the truth after it had been made clear, as if they were being driven to death with their eyes wide open. They disputed to you about the truth. Does the truth, like for me, it's hard to understand that the truth is the way that the spoils of war should be given, because
the truth is what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, decides, and he doesn't decide it from himself. It comes from God.
But no, my problem with it is, after it has been made clear, how will the Prophet's decision be made clear to them?
No, it's talking about how they rejected the decision of Prophet Muhammad on dividing Al-Anfal.
But again, how does his decision to divide the Anfal, how is it made clear to them?
It's loud and clear. The Anfal should be divided this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Some of the believers said we don't like that.
So for me, the way that I understand this, يجادلونك في الحق, the way that I understand it, the truth that is made clear to them, it doesn't feel like the Anfal division.
يجادلونك في الحق because they think الحق معهم مش مع النبي محمد.
بعد ما تبين, after it was made clear. How can it be made clear?
Prophet Muhammad made it clear, and yet they were arguing. After it's being clear, they still didn't like it, still didn't accept it. They felt like they were dragged to death with their eyes wide open. They didn't like it. After it's being clear.
Just because the Prophet said it doesn't mean that it was made clear. For me, made clear is through a verse in the Quran would make sense.
What Prophet Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, decided is the righteous thing to do. Believers have to follow and say سمعنا وأطعنا. We've heard, we will obey.
Okay, and then
we don't argue.
The next part of the verse I'm also struggling with, كأنما يساقون, as if they were driven towards death while they are looking. So how does they disputed with you about the truth after it had been made clear, as if they were driven to death while they were looking? They keep going like, no, like I just imagine someone saying, no, I don't want this to happen. Like this verse confuses me.
أحمد حبيبي, الحق هو اللي قال النبي محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام.
الحق is what the truth of it's what the messenger has said. So
ومع ذلك لما تبين لهم انه حق, مع ذلك قعدوا يجادلوا فيه.
And even when it was made to them evident that this was correct, they still were arguing with it. But how does the analogy work? They were arguing with it as if they are looking at death coming.
هذا تقديم وتأخير في الآية. يعني إذا بدك تعيد ترتيب الآية بتقول تبين الحق لهم ثم جاءوا يجادلونك في الحق بعدما تبين لهم, وإحساسهم the way they felt كأنهم يساقون إلى الموت وهم ينظرون.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get their feeling is that their feeling is they were taken to death while they were looking. I can just
because it didn't come the way they wanted, the way they wished. It didn't satisfy their greed and selfishness. That's why they hated it. They didn't like it.
Okay. We can just move past it. My brain is just not.
Maybe we should. Next.
Yeah.
وإذ يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين أنها لكم وتودون أن غير ذات الشوكة تكون لكم ويريد الله أن يحق الحق بكلماته ويقطع دابر الكافرين. Now this verse is telling us something very obvious. God gave them a promise through Messenger Muhammad. One of two gains. Either you take اللي خلينا نشرحها بالعربي وانت تحكيها بالانجليزي. اللي صار انه اول لقاء بين المسلمين والكفار كانت غزوة بدر.
The first clash between the believers, the Muslims, and the disbelievers was the Battle of Badr.
كيف عرفوا بغزوة بدر؟ عرفوا المسلمين انه في ابو سفيان جايب قافلة من بلاد الشام كامل caravan full of goodies and
so the Muslims knew that the people of the Bilad al-Sham, which is like the Syria, Lebanon, were coming with a caravan.
Mm-hmm. And they decided to go and grab it. However, God wanted them to fight the non-believers, not to take the merchandise on the caravan. But they wanted they didn't want the one that's going to give them power, which is war with Abu Sufyan, with the non-believers. They wanted the benefits, the immediate benefits, the merchandise. They
wanted the unarmed, unarmed, easy spoils of war. They wanted to fight someone who wasn't ready to fight back. They didn't want to fight the disbelievers who were ready to give them a fight.
Exactly, and God wanted you to be victorious in the peninsula.
Yeah.
Money comes and goes, caravans comes and goes, material gaining comes and goes. But your chance to prove your power and toughness doesn't come every time.
So
God wanted them to fight.
let's just translate what's being said exactly in the ayah. And when God promised you that you have an advantage over one of the two groups, that it would be for you as you wished, that and no, that either of those two groups would have been for you. You had the power over both of them, whether the ones who are armed and those who aren't armed. You wished that the one other than the one that has armed. You wished for the party that was unarmed. You wished for the caravan rather than so that it would be for you. And God intended for you that to justify the truth of His words and cut off the roots of the disbelievers. So what God really wanted for you was not the caravan. God wanted the disbelievers who were armed and who were going to fight, because God wanted to cut off the disbelievers from their root. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Any questions?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. The only thing that I'm kind of a little bit confused about is أن يعدكم الله إحدى الطائفتين, which means God promised you either of these two, but then God wanted you to fight. So why is He promising both if He wants you to fight? Why didn't He just promise the fight? You know?
I don't know the answer for this question.
Yeah. But okay, it's pretty clear. God wanted you to fight the disbelievers so that you can get to the roots of the disbelievers. Clear.
ليحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ولو كره المجرمون.
Okay, so that He may justify the truth and prove false the falsehood, even though the criminals dislike it, to firmly establish the truth and wipe out falsehood, even to the dismay of the wicked, even to the dislike of the wicked.
Next.
Yeah. Nah. Next.
تستغيثون ربكم فاستجاب لكم أني ممدكم بألف من الملائكة مردفين.
Oh, wow. Okay.
ترجم.
And when you were seeking for help from your Lord, so He answered to you, I am extending you, I'm reinforcing you with 1,000 of the angels, one after the other.
أيوة مردفون ورا بعضهم.
Yeah. So remember when you cried to your Lord for help, He answered, I will reinforce you with 1,000 angels, followed by many others. Wait, I'll reinforce you with 1,000 angels, following one after the other, or angels following the 1,000? No, I think
the verses later on is going to give us 10,000, 100,000, and it keeps counting up. So let's not jump ahead of ourselves.
Okay, but I mean here, this is also kind of one of the miracles of the spreading of Islam, is that they fought wars where they were outnumbered and they still were able to succeed.
Because God has given them 1,000 angels to fight with them.
At least. Clear.
Next. إذ يغشيكم النعاس أمانة منه.
We missed one.
Sorry. وما جعله الله إلا بشرى ولتطمئن به قلوبكم وما النصر إلا من عند الله إن الله عزيز حكيم. This news about 1,000 angels coming to fight with you from heavens, following each other, is only البشرى والخبر الجيد.
Good tidings, good news.
To know that you're not alone. Someone is fighting your war as well. And your hearts will be certain that you're going to win the battle.
Yeah, so they might be sure of the victory.
وما النصر إلا من عند الله. النصر ما لهش علاقة في عدد المقاتلين.
And there's no victory except for the people who are from God. And what Captain Imad said, it's not because of the numbers of who's fighting, it's from God. There's no victory except from God.
الله عزيز حكيم.
Indeed, God is almighty and all-wise.
Next.
Yeah, so the angels and the promise and the statement is all from God, and all you have to do is trust in Him. Victory only comes from God. Next.
تمام. إذ يغشيكم النعاس أمانة منه. وينزل عليكم من السماء ماء ليطهركم به ويذهب عنكم رجس الشيطان وليربط على قلوبكم ويثبت به الأقدام.
Wow, this is beautiful. Um, okay. Do you want me to give it?
Now, when Muslims came out to meet Al Caravan, they couldn't see them at first time, so they were nervous. They were tough. They were. Did he manage to escape? Did he know that we are coming to meet him? Did Sufyan change his route? What happened? You know, they were concerned. What's going to happen now? And they were stressed out. So God sent them sleeping, so that they sleep and relax. The answer is not now. The answer will come later on, and that's what happened. And he made the heavens rain at them to clear them from rijis. Rijis اللي هو, I don't know how do you translate rijis.
So they're just
Rijis
impurity, kind of like something that is
impurity,
evil, something that is dirty, something that is not. Yeah.
Next. في سؤال.
I just kind of want to go over it. So, if slumber is nas, if you feel sleepy, if slumber comes over you, then it is a security from him. So if you're feeling sleepy, then you're feeling secure. And he said,
yes. إذا أنت خايف ما بتعرف تنام. إذا أنت موجوع ما بتعرف تنام. إذا أنت جوعان ما بتعرف تنام.
If you're afraid, you're not able to sleep. If you're hungry, you're not able. In pain, you're not able to sleep. If you're hungry, you're not able to sleep. So if you're feeling sleepy, then that's a safety from God. And then he brings upon you from the sky water so that he may purify you and take away from you any evil or the works of the shaitan, the devil, and to strengthen your hearts and to make firm with it your feet. So, and this is also kind of something that we see in the Quranic expression, is that the rain is a blessing. Rain kind of washes away the working of the devil and kind of purifies you, strengthens your heart, and make firm your feet. There's a beautiful feeling of safety and serenity when you feel the rain. It's magical.
Water is one of the best remedies to get rid of the demon when he is consistently pushing you in the wrong direction. You immediately go and do wudu. You wash up for salah.
Yeah.
He hates water. The devil hates water because it's made of fire, as you know.
Yeah, it's jinn, fire. Beautiful.
Anytime you feel you're stressed out because of the devil, go ahead, twadda,
take a shower,
wash for prayer, and pray.
Yeah, wudu is not necessarily taking a full shower, washing your hands, washing your head, washing your feet. But if you take a shower, it's also just as effective. It's a good way of cleansing yourself. Water has magnetic energy, power. There's something powerful in running water. Okay, next.
إذ يوحي ربك إلى الملائكة أني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان. ترجمها أنت هاي. عرفت عندك سؤال عليها.
Okay, if inspired or given to you, it's always yuhya is to inspire in a way that nobody else notices, or when God reveals to you, your Lord, and to the angels, if God inspires to the angels that I am with you, so strengthen those who believed, I will cast in the hearts of those who disbelieve terror, so strike from above the necks and strike from every fingertip. Oh. So I will cast horror into the hearts of the disbelievers, so strike their necks and strike their fingertips. Interesting.
Yep. Why think the fingertips?
To drop the weapons?
No, because one of their weapons was the bow and arrow.
Okay.
So if you strike their fingers, they cannot use the bow and arrow.
Yeah, but they can't use any weapons if you strike their fingers.
There you go. They will not be able to fight them. Okay.
Okay, so God revealed to the angels, and he said, I am with you, or Yeah, well, أنا معك إني معكم. Is God telling this to the angels that He's with them?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and then He told the angels, "This is what you should do: strengthen those who believe, and I will cast in the heart those who disbelieve terror. So strike from above their necks and strike from every fingertip." Interesting. It's interesting that God is talking to the angels and He's telling them this is what you should do. I don't know why. I just assumed the angels would know what God wants them to do, but it never like occurred to me that God has to tell the angels what to do. You know?
ولله المثل الأعلى. As a computer programmer, which you are or you were one day, if you want your computer to execute a specific action in the laptop, you have to be very specific, very meticulous in detailing your the syntax of your programming to achieve this target.
Yeah.
Angels work like this. God gave them very specific orders. What should they do to help believers with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him?
Yeah.
Very specific, detailed orders.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just interesting that this strike above their necks and strike them on every fingertip. It's just a very specific expression. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
And
Next.
it's like you're doing that because they have fear in their hearts. I don't know.
He has thrown terror in their hearts and the non-believers' hearts.
Yeah.
So that it became easier for Muslims and angels to defeat them.
Yeah.
Because I think they were outnumbered. I think Muslims were outnumbered by Abu Sufyan's army.
Sure. I'm just trying to see the connection between striking above their necks and striking on
Striking
every
above their necks means cut their necks, cut their heads.
Let me just clarify. It says fadribu, which fa is to connect. So strike them above their necks and strike them from their fingertips. So I'm going to strike fear in their hearts. So strike them above their necks. There's something about striking them above their necks and from their fingertips that is tied to filling their heart with fears that I don't quite understand at this point in time, and I don't know if we're supposed
No. This seems to be one verse. أني معكم فثبتوا الذين آمنوا سألقي في قلوب الذين كفروا الرعب. Stop. Full stop. The sentence is complete until here. فاضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان. This is another subject. Although there is no comma, there is no sign of another ayah. It's a different subject. My job is to throw terror in the hearts of those who were non-believers. Your job is تضربوا فوق الأعناق واضربوا منهم كل بنان.
I hear you. I feel like there's a connection, but I understand if there is no connection. It's just a feeling that I have. But anyway.
Okay.
Next.
ذلك بأنهم شاقوا الله ورسوله ومن يشاقق الله ورسوله فإن الله شديد العقاب.
Okay, and that was because yeah.
ترجم.
Shaqu, you were going to say, what is the meaning of shaqu, right?
Yeah, they were arguing. They were adamant of refusing faith, refusing the true path.
Yeah.
شاقوا مش بس they said no, we don't believe, and they went away. No, we don't believe. We don't want anybody to believe.
And whoever opposes God and is devil, then indeed God is severe in penalty. So here we have a philosophy that we kind of see in one version in the previous Quran daily that we talked about. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِي. You have your faith and I have mine. That is a very different sentiment than what we're seeing here today, which is that this is because they. So I think the word shaqu is very important. It's not just they didn't listen to the prophet. It's not just defied. I think it means so much more. Like the shaqu, they made miserable. Like it's not made miserable. It's such a powerful descriptive word. It's not just those who didn't believe. It's those who opposed and tried to make miserable the way of God and His messenger. So it's not just people who didn't agree with what you're saying. It's people who are actively oppressing and actively attacking you, and that's why I think it's very important to distinguish.
And that's why you had to fight them back.
Yeah, so it's not just the disbelievers; it's specifically those that were trying to make miserable God, not so much, but the messenger, but like not just opposed. It's like actively went against the spreading of it. So.
هلا بالآية اللي قريناها لكم دينكم ولي دين سورة الكافرون.
In the verse that we read in Surah Al-Kafirun, you have your religion, we have ours.
هي مرحلة من مراحل الدعوة. المرحلة الأولى كانت سرا.
So this is one of the stages of the spreading Islam. The first stage of spreading Islam was done in secret, where it was just like whispering and sharing it. And then this one, the verse from Al-Kafirun that we had in the last episode. What about it?
Okay. إنه لازم يدعو الصحابة وأهله وعائلته.
That they have to call the Sahaba.
هو نبي محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام. He had to call to Islam his close people, his close friends, his close followers. أول واحد آمن فيه سيدنا أبو بكر. لما قال أنا نزل علي جبريل في غار حراء وأنا رسول الله إليكم، أول واحد آمن فيه أبو بكر.
Yeah. So what is that? Why is that? Why did you bring it up from this verse?
Because لكم دينكم ولي دين كانت في مرحلة سابقة، مرحلة الدعوة السرية.
Oh, so you have your religion and I have ours is from a different phase of the spreading of the message. It was in one of the earlier phases of the spreading of the message. I would say it also applies to today. It's also to this stage of the message. Like now, I think that expression of you have your religion and I have mine is a wonderful explanation of you don't need to believe. I am forcing you to believe. Just don't force. As long as you don't attack me and harm me, then we're all good. You can have your religion.
In our time and age, buddy, the truth is obvious and clear to everybody. So our job is not to enforce Islam on anybody. We can call them. We can offer them. Whether they like it or they don't, that's their business. It's not our job to fight them and kill them in the name of Islam or religion. That is not acceptable.
Sure. So we're in agreements. And here, the only reason that they're fighting is because they were oppressing oppressing
the believers,
messengers, not just disbelieving. Just that's what we wanted to clarify. Next.
ذلكم فذوقوه وأنا للكافرين عذاب النار. What the suffering you have been through in the battle is nothing compared to what's going to happen the doomsday and the torture with God's hell, God's fire.
Specifically here, it's saying that which you have tasted in battle, and and for the disbelievers, the punishment of fire. The worldly punishment is yours, so taste it, and the disbelievers will suffer. Like it's like so there, like it's kind of like really hammering it home.
Come on. Questions?
No. Next.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا لقيتم الذين كفروا زحفا فلا تولوهم الأدبار. الزحف before you want to translate the verse بعدين بشرح لك إياه. Okay.
Sure. Oh, you who believed that when you meet those who disbelieve, and this is the word that you were talking about, zahfan, advancing, the translation, when you face the disbelievers in battles, do not turn to them your backs. So this is a directive for those that believe. If you meet the disbelievers advancing, then do not turn your back towards them.
In battle, exactly. Don't ever give them your back and run away. Unless the next verse will explain to us. So next verse?
Yep.
ومن يولهم يومئذ دبره إلا متحرفا لقتال أو متحيزا إلى فئة فقد باء بغضب من الله ومأواه جهنم وبئس المصير. You are allowed to give them their back only for two reasons. Either you want to support a small group of believers fighting kuffar, you want to support them, you want to help them, or you want to help a different group. But you give them your back and run away from the battle is the supreme treason.
So turning your back in battle is treason unless you're doing it as a strategy or to join another group. And whoever does it, then he has incurred the wrath from God, and his abode is hell, and what a wretched destination that is.
Questions?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Next.
Don't turn your back in battle unless it's strategy. Next.
فلم تقتلوهم ولكن الله قتلهم وما رميت إذ رميت ولكن الله رمى وليبلي المؤمنين منه بلاء حسنا إن الله سميع عليم. Translate.
Okay, and when you kill them, you did not kill them, but God killed them. And you did not throw when you threw, but God threw. So that he may test the believers from him in a trial that is in a good trial. Indeed, God is all hearing and all knowing. Yeah. So whoever.
Questions?
So here it's saying it was not you who killed them, but it was God who did. Nor was it you, the prophet, who threw a handful. Here they're saying handful of sand. Nor was it you that threw, but God threw. So whoever did so, rendering the great praise. So that he may.
رميت إذ رميت. When you Prophet Muhammad threw an arrow at them, it wasn't you who threw it. It's God it's like God's hand is with your hand. That's what it means.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand وَلِيَبْلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْهُ بَلَاءً حَسَنًا. So that he may.
ليبلي البلاء اللي هو testing. It's a very stressful situation so that your core value will be obvious, will be purified. It's like throwing fire at gold to purify it from other minerals or materials.
So you really
البلاء امتحان.
You really test completely.
البلاء امتحان.
Yeah. Okay. Indeed, God is all hearing, all knowing. So here it's kind of the main message, the moral of this is that if you are in combat, then fight and trust that God is with you, and that as scary as the situation is, it's a test. So make sure that you do what's best that you can, because God really wants what's best for you, and that is the result of the test. And we also see this in the history of Islam spreading. They were fighting battles that they felt terrified for, but they have to constantly put their hearts on the line, put their faith on the line. If you really trust in God, then you're willing to go into outnumbered situations and see how you can figure it out.
Come on.
Next.
ذلكم وأن الله موهن كيد الكافرين. كلمة كيد معناها plan or strategy.
The plot, the strategy.
The plot, yeah.
And that is that God is the one who makes the plot of the disbelievers weak. Frustrates the evil plans of the disbelievers. Clear?
Next.
Yep.
إن تستفتحوا فقد جاءكم الفتح وإن تنتهوا فهو خير لكم وإن تعودوا نعد ولن تغني عنكم فئتكم شيئا ولو كثرت أن الله مع المؤمنين.
Okay. So here it's saying, if you ask for victory, then certainly it has come to you the victory. Al-Fath is the phrase.
Opening.
The opening, again, we mentioned before, with the victory. And if you desist, then it is for you, then is good for you. And if you desist, if you cease, it will be for your own good. But if you return, we will return too, and nobody will avail you or your forces anything, even if they are numerous. And indeed, God is with the believers. So here, it's kind of like saying, Meccans, you asked for judgment, and here is the judgment. And now that the judgment's out, if you stop, we'll stop. We're not gonna push any further. But if you go back to torturing us, if you go back to oppression, if you go back to all of this, then nothing will save you and your force is not a single thing, because no matter how numerous they are, and indeed God is with the believers. It's a very powerful. All right, you've seen it now. You've seen God's might. Don't do it again. Yeah.
تمام. Questions?
No.
Next.
يا
أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله ورسوله ولا تولوا عنه وأنتم تسمعون.
O ye who believe, obey God and his messenger, and do not turn away from him while you are hearing. When he calls, do not turn away from him. Yeah, pretty straightforward, pretty clear.
تمام. Next.
Yeah.
ولا تكونوا كالذين قالوا سمعنا وهم لا يسمعون.
And do not be like those who said, we heard, when they do not hear. And here, I don't think it means do not hear as in like they're pretending to hear something that they didn't actually hear, but rather it's a sign of acknowledgement. Like for me,
if I can use an analogy, there is a difference between hear and listen.
Yeah.
You can hear something, but you're not paying attention. You're not really listening.
Yeah.
And that's why when somebody asks you, what did he say? You say, I don't know. I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. So here it's saying people that have said, oh yeah, we heard you, but they don't really hear you. They don't really receive the information. They don't really believe in it. So don't be some of those. Cool. Well, that concludes the end of the section because we have this little symbol here. So I hope you enjoyed this journey through the Quran. And as usual, we must always end with Sadaqallahu al-Ali al-Azim, which means trusted is the word of God, who is most elevated and most grand. And I would like to thank you, Captain Ahmad, for taking us along this journey with us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day, guys.
And we will continue the Quran daily for the holy month of Ramadan tomorrow, inshallah, if God is willing. Hopefully that we will have an episode coming on Saturday. Until then, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.